This is the next piece of ordnance in the historic ordnance series. What I have here is technically a demolitions charge, but it is referred to as a mine. This is the Russian, formerly Soviet, SPM Limpet mine. Now, I tried finding when this entered service, and I only found one reference, and it said they entered service in 1940. I don't know if I necessarily believe that. I do know that they did appear during the Cold War on the battlefield, employed by guerrillas and terrorists. And that's how I became aware of this, is reading historical accounts, and these are mentioned. Now, construction. The casing of the mine is made out of aluminum or bakelite. Just depended on the factory that produced it. And I have a feeling the ones that are aluminum have an aluminum upper body. And as you can clearly see on the bottom here, we have a bakelite plastic plate on the bottom to keep everything inside that shell. Now we have a length of 11 inches, a height at the center here of 3 inches, a max width here of 4.5 inches. The weight is 6 2/3 pounds, of which the explosive filler is 2 1/4 pounds. Now I found 4 types of explosives listed for this mine that were used over its service life. Currently it looks like they're using an explosive type referred to as MC. In the past it also were filled with TNT, TGA, and an explosive referred to as MS. Now the time for setting these off, because you set them off with a timed fuse, it's not set off with pressure or any of that. The time range is 5 minutes to approximately 800 hours, max around 823 hours. The time for the mine to go off is really based off of the ambient temperature, the air temperature, or the temperature of the environment it is in. The colder it is, the longer it's going to take. The warmer it is, the less time it's going to take. How much? I actually found references on Russian websites that in warmer temperatures you can arm this for 1 hour, but it may go off within 5 minutes. Because of that increased temperature, just weakened the fuse enough that it's going to go off that quick. And in the colder environment that it's used in, you may put on a fuse that's meant for 400 hours, but it may take over 800 hours to set it off. That's why they say it has a max of 800 hours. Now, these mines are meant for putting holes in the sides of ships. They can be employed up to 10 meters underwater. My guess is at that point, below 10 meters, you get problems with the magnets here. Now, general construction on the mine, as you see, you got the shell. One end, you got the shipping plug. The other end, you have a canvas carrying strap. You can barely see it here, but there's also a steel plate which is put on the bottom of the mine for when you're transporting it and stuff. Here we had the plate removed. You can see the markings that are on the bakelite plastic. And up here, this is what you look for on the side of the crates they come in. It's a what looks like a C, an N, and an M. That's the Cyrillic characters for SPM. And on here you can see the 2 horseshoe magnets which are on the end with the explosive charge here in the center. Now these are packaged in a wooden crate, 8 mines to a crate, and also inside that crate is 4 waist belts so that you can put on 2 or more of these mines on that belt to carry them around you as you swim to a target if you're a diver. There's also 1 wrench for tightening on the fuses to the mine, and 2 detonator holder boxes. The detonators do not come with, and the fuses do not come with the mines. The crate weighs around 100 pounds when it is full. Now the types of fuses that can be used on this, there's 2 types, the VZD-20M and the VZD-20M. Now there's only one detonator that can be used with those fuses. It is the MD5M. Now some people are going to say, well, the internet says you can also use the MD2 detonator. It has the same threads that it can be used on the two fuses. However, the MD2 detonator is longer than the MD5M. So if you have the MD2 on the fuse and you're screwing it into the mine here, it's too long for the mine. What will happen, you're trying to crank it down to tighten it up in here, and that blasting cap will be down in here, and it's going to start bending. And what happens to a sensitive blasting cap if something starts happening to it, especially it's starting to get crushed? Oh yeah, it goes kaboom. So do not use the MD2 detonator on this type of mine. That's straight from the Russian military. It's in their manuals. But here in the West, it says you can use both those in there. No, you can't. Now, installations. First off with the VZD-20M detonator, or fuse. Now it does not have the detonator on here. The detonator gets screwed onto this end, and this thing is about as large as your hand. It's really long and it's really thick. On here you have a cap. Here you got the safety pin, and right below that you have the nut, which does spin freely on the fuse body here for, you know, tightening up the fuse onto the mine to cut down on water getting into the mine. So for installation instructions using the VZD-20M fuse, first off, you're going to inspect the mine, you're going to inspect the fuse, you're going to inspect the detonator. You're going to make sure that there is no damage which could prevent it from being used. When you're inspecting the fuse, you're also making sure it has all of the little arming strips down here that you need. These arming strips are color coded. There's an unpainted one, a red, black, white, green, and brown. Unpainted is supposed to be for about 5 minutes. The brown one is the longest length of time, and that's supposed to be either 400 hours or 800 hours. It depends on what you're looking at. There is a huge separation for times on these based on air temperatures. Now the VZD-20M can only be employed in temperatures from -4 degrees Fahrenheit to a max of 104 degrees above zero. You get outside those ranges and it's really going to affect when this fuse is going to go off. So we're going to select which timing element we need. Then we're going to go on here. We're going to remove the cap from the end. We're going to slip that little timing strip up in through the jaws here underneath a metal wire. Make sure it's in there good. You then put the cap back on. After you have that cap on there, that's when you're going to screw on your detonator on the other end. Now, it should be mentioned that if you leave that arming strip out of the fuse, you are not turning it into an instantaneous firing device. Because what happens, you start pulling the safety pin out of the fuse and you do not have the arming strip in here, the time strip. What will happen is the striker will start shooting forward, and on the end of the fuse here, there's a notch. Or on the end of the safety pin, there's a little notch in there in the metal. If there is no time strip in there, that striker will come down and it will lock on that little cutout inside the pin, and you're not going to be able to remove it. So how you do it to reset it at that point, you push the pin back in as you're putting a piece of metal up underneath the little wire to get that reset back into position. Once you get the pin all the way in, the wire should be all the way up to just above the jaws or right at the top of the jaws. Then you can go through, put the arming strip in, and the fuse will work just fine. Now for actually arming the mine, we've got our fuse now set up with detonator. We then go to our mine. We remove our shipping plug from the mine. We then screw the VZD-20M fuse with detonator into the fuse well. We then take the wrench that came with the mine, tighten it down to prevent water from getting inside there, especially if you're going to use this against a ship. The mine is then ready to go. You then transport it to your target. Once you are at your target, you will remove the steel plate from the bottom of the mine. I may have forgot to mention this. The reason for the steel plate, you have two purposes for it. First off, that plate keeps it on the belt on the waist of the diver as he's approaching the target. That steel plate also neutralizes the effects of the magnets on the ends, so that the magnets will not affect the diver's compass as he's trying to find his way through the water in the dark going to the ship, the one particular ship that he is targeting. Once you remove the steel plate, take the mine, attach it to your target. Then you're going to pull the safety pin and you're going to get out of the area. At that point, that little metal wire is going to start cutting its way through the arming strip in there. Once it has cut all the way through that arming strip, it's going to put pressure on the striker that's going to send it forward, setting off the detonator. Now there is notes. According to the Russian Army, these are non-recoverable. So once you pull that pin and the fuse is active, do not try to stop it, remove the fuse and that stuff to reuse the mine because of changing circumstances. You're supposed to let it go. However, Russian engineers say that if the time element is greater than 6 hours, then technically you can go up, remove the fuse from the mine, and then you can reuse the mine. You might want to also remove the detonator from that fuse as quick as you can as soon as you get it out of the mine, so that when the fuse does, activate, all it's going to do is shoot the striker out of there. It's not going to set off the fuse. So then you'd have the detonator and the mine that could be reused. But according to Russian Army doctrine, you're not supposed to do that. Now the VZD-20M fuse, that's primarily meant for use underwater. Now notes with the times. Notes with the times. The higher the temperature, the faster the fuse is going to go. The lower the temperature, the longer the fuse is going to go. How much of a difference? Well, there's actually notes from Russian engineers that you can have the strip in there for 1 hour. And if it's too hot, you're over 100 degrees, especially over that 104 degrees max operational temp, your 1 hour time can get cut down to as low as 5 minutes. Now, if it's colder temperatures, you have the strip in there that's supposed to be for 400 hours. That strip can go as long as 823 hours, they found during testing. How are you going to know which one to use then? Inside the case that these fuses come in, there's a piece of paper. And obviously it's in Cyrillic, it's in Russian. It has in there the color for the strip, it has in there the ambient temperature, and how long that strip will last inside that temperature. So you're supposed to reference that sheet when you're choosing your time element. Now the next type of fuse that can be used is this one. the VZD-20M. Now this is a clockwork fuse. This is primarily meant for use on land according to Russian doctrine. On the top here there is a knob for adjusting your time. The time goes from 1 hour to 20 hours, and how it's set, it goes 1, then 2, 4, 6, 8. And those numbers are numbers of hours until the fuse is supposed to work. But once again, depending on the temperature, the clockwork may go a little bit quicker, may go a little bit slower. So to employ the SPM Limpet mine using the VZD-20M fuse, go through, you inspect the mine, inspect the fuse, inspect the detonator. Make sure there's no damage that will prevent it from being used. You will then remove from the bottom of the fuse a shipping cap, and you will screw in the MD5M detonator. You cannot use the MD2. You run into the same problems as you did with the VZD-1M. It's too long. It has to be the MD5M. But you screw the detonator onto the bottom of the fuse. Then just like with the 1M, unscrew your shipping plug, screw in your fuse. Transport your mine to your target. Once you're at the target, remove the steel plate, attach it to the target. Then you're going to go through and you're going to set your time increment on there. Now, I could not get the information I really wanted on this because I got two sets of information on this. Now, according to one site that said to get the clockwork to start working, to start counting down, you're supposed to activate the trigger. But I cannot find anything on here that's supposed to be the trigger. Another website said to pull the pin. Well, where's the pin? Because I don't see that on any of the pictures or the technical drawings. But looking on here, I can kind of see, I don't know if you can, it almost looks like there might be some type of pin or something here. And it almost looks like there's supposed to be some type of protective cover that goes over this to prevent this from getting activated. But I'm not sure. Everyone pretty much has the same picture for this fuse. So, but you'll go through, you'll activate it. Once you do that, it's going to start counting down. Once it reaches the end, that's when you're going to have the striker here is going to get pushed forward into the detonator, setting off the mine. Now, these mines, when it's employed against a ship, information I found for breaching steel plate, if the plate is 1 1/4 inches in thickness, you're employing this on the side of a ship, it's in the water, you have the water behind the mine, which is going to focus the explosive force directly into the ship. Water is the best tamping agent there is. It will produce a hole that is 15 3/4 inches long and 13 3/4 inches wide. Now, you can employ this against armored vehicles like the side of a BMP or the side of a BTR. It will punch through that armor. But you're going to lose a lot of the explosive force compared to if it's used against a ship, which is what it's meant for. Now, terrorists, when they were employing these, they would take these mines, and it looked like, you know, from pictures I had seen, they're primarily using the VZD-1M fuse. They would take these mines. They would go to a area where there was a lot of civilians, like a city square, a marketplace, or something along that lines, or even in a restaurant. They would take the mine, put it on the inside of a metal trash can, and try to place it so that it's focusing the explosive blast towards where most of the people are. They would then pull the pin, cover the mine up with trash or the trash bag so you wouldn't know it was there. It would count down, it would go off. There'd be a whole lot of civilians killed and injured. So another thing was a tactic I came across. You'd have a man and a woman go to a restaurant. The woman would have the mine inside her handbag. She would leave the handbag next to the table. Okay? She would arm it, pull the pin and that stuff, keep it hidden in her hand, place the bag on the ground. And then, both of them would walk off to go use the bathroom and slip out a side door. That mine would then go off inside the restaurant and the enclosed space of the restaurant. The force would get bounced around inside there, injuring a whole lot of people. So there you go. That's the information I could find on the Russian SPM Limpet mine. These are still out there. They are still being employed. I have come across information that they are being employed in Ukraine by both sides. They are out there. Now, for all my engineer brothers and the Patriot militia movements, always remember, essay ons.